Okay, tonight we've got I believe it's a 2014 Audi A6. It's got the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, and it's here from my buddy's shop because it's misfiring, and they've gone through and done the, I guess, kind of the basics, plugs, coil deal, and it's still there. So he wants me to look at it and see exactly what's going on with it. I mean, obviously it runs really bad, smokes out the exhaust. I've not scanned it yet, but being that we've got a misfire currently present, I'm just going to go right off the bat and check relative compression with a sync and seeing if we've got basically a mechanical problem. If we do, we'll go a little bit further and try to identify where the issue is, if there is a mechanical issue, and kind of just start with that. So have you guys take a look at it, and battery's a little low, so got the jump box on it, and it's your basic 2-liter turbo setup. I've got the coil removed out of this. I'm going to use this as a sink. Actually, all of these I'm going to unplug to keep it from starting, so I can just go ahead and crank it. As far as getting a starter current draw, this, I believe, batteries in the back. Sometimes they're underneath here, but this one, it's neither there, and I don't want to go in the back. And I was trying to find where the starter goes, but I decided to simply just, because this is your big B plus feed to your jump post, and then it continues on there onto the car to starter, alternator, and all that. So I am just going to go ahead and lift this up and clamp around here in that direction, and that should be good enough. And then we'll get our sync there, and we'll get a capture and see what it looks like mechanically. Okay, so there's my current clamp, and here are the coils all unplugged. Got our pin on the trigger control, and then we've got our scope running. Let's change the setting. Okay, and I'm actually going to leave you here on the screen while I go ahead and crank it. Okay. I don't know if you can tell, you can also kind of hear that it is not sounding the best mechanically while cranking. Battery is definitely dead or low for sure, but there you go. There's missing hump, and then actually let's bring down second trace, and it falls right on number 1. Okay, so number 1, we have no compression, mechanical problem. Reason why coil plugs did not help this is clear right there. So this vehicle is going to need, obviously, either an engine replaced or find out mechanically what is wrong, whether it's valves or something else. And let's see if we can go a little bit further to find out where that compression is going. So now I'm using a pressure sensor in the oil dipstick, along with the other 2 we already had. and I am going there because of my suspicions. Basically, I'm going to read crankcase pressures while cranking, knowing that we have no compression on cylinder 1. And we're looking to see for a big change on the green channel. And we'll stop that. Bring down the 3rd channel. We'll zoom in. Okay, so this is during cranking. Once it kind of settled in, we can get a good idea. And on this, anytime pressure, it reads a positive pressure, the graph waveform, it goes down. Negative goes up on this sensor. So you have this big spike in positive pressure each time number 1 goes at TDC, and then you have a big flyback just because of the low reach down here, so to say. But for this situation, like I said, I was looking for a positive increase each time number 1 was at TDC, and you obviously see abnormal activity compared to other areas, which then leads me to believe that the loss of compression is going down into the crankcase, which we are measuring pressure in the crankcase, and mechanically we have either rings or piston problem. Next, I'll probably just get a quick camera and try to verify, see if we could see anything, and kind of go from there. But this quick way of finding out what why it's misfiring, number 1. 2nd, finding out which one by triggering it. 3rd, I always do what I call looking for where the loss of compression went. So I'll always try to look at the intake manifold. You can look at the exhaust to try to see something there, but then also I always do go into the crankcase if I can, if possible, and check there as well. In this scenario, we're seeing that loss compression going into the crankcase, so it is going to be bottom end issue, not upper end. Okay, so here we are in the middle of teardown, and here is a fresh new piston with rings and everything. So got the whole front end tore down. I'm trying to avoid pulling the motor, but we'll see. I'm still going forward. Obviously the head is off, no damage to the underside of the head, but there is the missing part and cause of low compression. All others look fine. But yeah, just continuing on. We are going forward, obviously, with repairing it, and hopefully it goes well. Like I said, trying to avoid pulling it off the tranny and everything off the engine. So I'm going to try to raise it up, drop the main pan with the oil pump, and see if I can get access to pull the number 1 out. hopefully that's all I have to do, and then I can go ahead and put it back together. Well, here we are a few hours later. And as you can see, I still ended up having to remove the engine. Was not expecting to, but ran into an issue on removing the upper oil pan. Ended up finding out that for some stupid reason, Volkswagen in the back has two small bolts bolted into the back of the pan from the rear main seal housing. So it's not enough to have, you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 big bolts that on the lower of the bell housing, like almost every other vehicle, if it bolts into the oil pan, that's all that they would use, along with, you've got one and another one here, 2 long ones going up. As you can see, I've got it split, and all this was done in the car, and the whole pan was ready to fall and drop and split, but all it would do was a little bit of a flex, and I could tell it was being hung up in the back. And I go into service information, and the first step for removal of the upper engine oil pan is to remove transmission, and it doing so you can remove the flywheel and then what they call like the sealing flange cover ordeal, and then it shows you kind of bolt pattern, and then there's 2 tiny ones that go this way that bolt to the pan. So needless to say, engine had to come out at that point for sure, and I've tried to do it in a way where I kept as much as I could on the block. Okay, so there's the pan finally off, and this is what I was talking about. This rear flange, seal flange, whatever they want to call it, which actually houses the this metal plate also, and these 2 guys are the ones that keep you from pulling the pan without pulling the motor. Now, also, here are some little goodies in the pan. Basically pieces of piston, oil control rings, all in here, and there was some on this pan also. As you can see, that's the sensor, but that is that. Now we've got an empty hole in here, and the oil squirter seems to be good still. And then here is our number 1 piston. And from up top, looks like just a small portion of the top crown of the piston. But once you get underneath it, you can see that the damage seemed to have come from, looks like from the bottom. But there you go. All the little pieces, that's what we saw in the missing rings, pieces of missing rings. And then we will be going forward with new bearings, new bolt, new piston, pin, and rings. So all that work, I guess, if you're running into the same situation, you have to pull the motor out to drop the pan. All because of these two little bolts. Once you do that, get however many rods, pistons you need to, and continue on. Okay, so here's the new piston installed on the rod. Here's the old one. Now, this is something that luckily and gladfully I ended up taking a step back and deciding to carefully just look over and just poke your head in, look around. And this is why I am glad to not have a boss hanging over you, staring over your shoulder, rushing you, asking you when you're done, how much longer, blah blah blah. When you do that, that's when mistakes happen. So we know piston number 1 obviously was blown up. And like I said, I decided to kind of take a step back. Been in this situation before where you get rushed, you want to pop the part in, get it back together, get it back to the customer, and move on with the next. It's everyone and their mom is rushing you. But I decided to stop and not rush it, and decided to poke my head and start looking up at any other pistons out of curiosity. And it is hard to show you, but this number 3 has broken lower ringlands. Where are we? Let me see. Okay. Right there. So I'm trying to do this. Up there, it's hard to make out. There you go. Oh man. There you go. The same lower portion of the piston broken on number 3. Can't tell nothing from the top. Obviously number 3 is not misfiring, but the lower portion is gone, and I'm sure eventually will end up burning through into the top. I'm not sure you can tell, but there's kind of almost like waves, burn grooves going up this way. So it's burning and breaking the lands down here and then going up this way, and I'm sure this one would have had the same result. So this is where I stop. And remember how I told you I told the customer, gave him options, blah blah blah. He said no, just do pop one piston in, call it a day, and that's it. I said okay, I can do that. I've done it in the past with other engines, you know, and it's worked fine. Luckily, I decided to get a closer look, just, you know, seeing that the other one was broke from the bottom, not from the top, gave me an idea to just poke my head under there and look upwards, and luckily found that. So that would have been a bad day, putting this all together, doing all this hard work, and a day later, a week later, a month later, have number 3 start misfiring with no compression. So what do you think I'm going to tell him now? Or actually, not even going to tell him. We're just going to go ahead, get 3 more pistons, do all 4 at one time, not question anything, and that's what he's getting. And that's it.